Today's topic, common backdoor Roth IRA questions answered. How do I know they're common? Well, we get them quite a bit, but most importantly, I got a good idea for this one. I jumped into our most popular YouTube video, which is the truth about backdoor Roth IRA and common mistakes. How popular is it? Well, 24,000 views. For little channels like our channel, that is fantastic. Some of the big bloggers out there, big YouTubers are probably like, yee. But hey, for us, we'll take it. So I actually went through the comments, questions. Now we always, as you know, hopefully you know, we're always trying to answer your questions as well. But I figured with this topic not only being popular now, but it will continue to get more popular through the end of the year. This video historically has actually always had, or I should say this topic, but in regards to that video, has always had a huge spike right around February or March. But we can even see the uptick occurring now when I'm recording this, because as we get near the end of the year, we also get into the earlier part of the year where tax planning is really kind of top of mind. This is where this topic really jumps in popularity. So while I always answer those questions as you send them over, sometimes you can't add as much context. Now, some of them won't need a lot of context, but some of them will need some more context. So we're going to walk through all those questions. We've had 56 comments. I believe that picks up some of my comments as well, but we're going to go to ones that we saw numerous times, or at least some iteration of it. But I'd like to brag. This video has a 96% success like rate. So that means of all those viewers, right, that are clicking the like button, 96% of them said we love it. So we know it's good content, but we're going to build on it. We're going to add some good answers. So that is all coming up next as we jump into the questions. Before we get into those questions, now would be a good time to subscribe to the channel or click the like button to give the channel a little boost as we head into the backdoor Roth IRA time, which again is a very good time of year for our channel, as this is a topic that we love and is very near and dear to our heart. So if you could take a second to do that. But without further ado, let's get into the questions. Number one, actually just had this one come in recently. Actually, this is one I responded to earlier before we started recording. Do you have to contribute to a traditional IRA each year and then immediately transfer/convert to the Roth? Or once you've done the initial transfer conversion, do you only contribute to the Roth the following years? This was a unique one. I've actually not really ever heard it worded this way, but from what I take from the individual that made this comment was, hey, if I do it properly the first year, do I only then get to go right directly to the Roth? Essentially, you don't have to do the back part for the following years. That is false. Unfortunately, you will have to do funds into the IRA, convert it to the Roth IRA. Don't forget to invest it. I'll probably note that about 100 times today, but you got to do that process every year, right? Because if you're doing the backdoor Roth, if you stumbled upon this video, it's likely, hopefully it's because your income is too high and you can't go directly to a Roth. So as it stands today, you need to do that same process year in and year out. All right, next up, I only have a 401k through my employer. Do I need to worry about the pro-rata rule? No, you don't. You're in a good spot here. If you're coming across our video and this is your first time learning about the backdoor Roth, check out that video I noted earlier about the truth about the backdoor Roth IRA and common mistakes. That'll give you more details on like, what is it? How do you do it? This is just common questions. So this is more or less built for individuals that are probably already doing it or about to do their first one and then maybe had a mishap or here or there. So I won't walk through the actual process for a lot of them. So this viewer's question is in regards to the pro-rata rule. Remember, the pro-rata rule says you don't want to have an IRA. You don't want to have a SEP IRA, not as common these days, but something called a simple IRA. These are 3 IRAs that if you think you're doing just a conversion from your traditional IRA to your Roth IRA, you got another thing coming. You'll find this out when you fill out your Form 8606, but you can only have that traditional IRA balance that you're going to convert. And there's another question we'll get to in a little bit further down the line here to add a little bit more context to that. But if you have a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, or another form of a traditional IRA that's not being converted fully for our backdoor Roth IRA conversation, you will run into the pro-rata rule. So keep an eye on that. There are easy ways to fix that. We do note that again in that other video as well, but keep an eye on that. Third question here. This is a very common question. I actually probably say this is the most common question we get about the backdoor Roth IRA. So this individual, I'll paraphrase some of these so you're not getting all the love in here as well, but first time conversion, I did the $7,000, then there was $2 of accumulated interest left. I thought I could only convert the contribution limit, aka the $7,000 in this given year. It sounds like I should have converted all of it. How do I fix this? Now there's $4 in there, right? Because you're getting more interest and pay taxes on it later. So this is the most common question, right? In the current year, the current contribution limit is $7,000. So in a perfect world, you put $7,000 into your IRA, you let those funds settle, and then you convert it to your Roth IRA. Don't forget to get it invested. And you think it's 7,000 in, 7,000 out. But while it's in there, and it depends how long it's in there, you're going to accumulate some interest. That's okay, all normal stuff. So for this viewer in particular, let's just say you put in 7,000, you converted the 7,000, but you left $2 behind. Just convert the entire amount there, right? The 7,002, or in their example, now they have $4 left over, and they can still jump in and convert that remaining $4. Now that $4 becomes taxable, right? Because you did a non-deductible contribution to your traditional IRA. You converted that, in this example, 7,000 over, and then you got to invest it when it's in the Roth. So anything over that number will be taxable. And this all comes out on the Form 8606. That's why that form is so important, which is why we cringe when we find new clients that have said, hey, I've done Backdoor Roths for all the years. We look at their tax returns. We've never seen an 8606. All the details are embedded in that 8606 about these little details. So very common question. We get this one all the time. You're okay here. If you made this, I'm not even going to call it an error because it's not an error, but if you didn't convert the entire amount or it's a little bit higher because of that interest, all normal stuff, you're good there. Another layer to this one, we did have one individual say, hey, I actually invested it in my IRA. I gained, I think it was like $900 or $1,000. Now what? I would still give that same advice there. Now it's a little bit higher. This is why usually we'll say when you do it, keep it in cash. We don't have confirmation on how long the IRS wants to see money sitting there in the traditional IRA. Something in there called the STEP doctrine. So some will use next day when the funds settle. Some will use a month. Some will use a quarter. Some will use an entire year. But regardless, however long it sits there, you're going to gain some interest rate and then get it over if it's in a money market or cash. This individual actually invested it. So it was a little bit higher. They had good returns. Good thing, right? So now when they convert it, let's just say it was $1,000 for easy math. Let's just stick with the example from before. You put in 7,000 into the IRA. You invested it while it was in the IRA, traditional IRA. It gained an extra 1,000 and now you want to convert it. What do? We want to confirm some tax things here, but for even the highest of income earners, an extra $1,000 here, likely not going to completely break your financial plan. But in that example, likely converting the entire thing. So you're still safe, once again, converting that entire thing. This individual just has a little bit more because they invested it as opposed to keeping it in cash. Luckily, it went up, it didn't go down. So that's a good win there. Next one on here. So you never pay taxes on the money. Even when taxes are filed, will you have to pay the tax bill? No. So if you do this properly, that's the beauty of the Backdoor Roth. So the money you're putting into the initial IRA, it's labeled as a non-deductible contribution. What does that mean? Well, it means that you're using after-tax dollars and you never got a tax deduction for it. So right there, you're essentially clear, right? Your basis is your funds. Then you have it in the the traditional IRA, convert it over to the Roth. Now you invested in the Roth. Well, what's the big benefit of the Roth, right? Well, you get tax deferred growth while it's in there. And then when you pull it out following all the rules, right? Then it's completely tax-free. So when you do this properly, it should be completely tax-free when you go to pull the funds out. Now there's, 5-year rules, there's 15.5 rules. So it's not just like, hey, I can do this and then pull the money out. And we're always worried about the gains, right? Not the contributions. But when you do a Backdoor Roth IRA conversion in there, it does also add in a 5-year clock. So that's kind of a little bit of a nerdy side thing. We do note that in some other videos as well, but just kind of keep an eye on that. But if you do this properly, you should never be paying taxes again on those funds. But remember, they were already after-tax dollars. So Uncle Sam did get his cut somewhere, right? If it came in from your paycheck, you already paid taxes on those. It's just because it's an after-tax contribution to that IRA that you should not ever be paying taxes on it going forward. Okay, next up, I have a pre-tax 401k through my work. Can I open a Fidelity IRA and Roth IRA, then contribute the $6,500? That is a little bit lower contribution amount than what it is today. Contribute the $6,500 after-tax money into the traditional IRA, move it all to my Roth IRA. Would this be considered a Backdoor Roth IRA? Will I not be subject to the pro-rata rule? I'm not touching my 401k, it stays in there. This is another pretty popular question, right? Because, a lot of people think of like, well, hey, this is my custodian. Remember, Fidelity is really just a custodian, right? And it's a very large 401k custodian. So you could have a 401k plan sitting there and still do this separately, as this individual noted, via the IRA, traditional IRA, and then the Roth IRA. So they're separate islands. You're safe here. But yes, that is the Backdoor Roth IRA, right? You put the money into the IRA, as they noted, convert it to the Roth IRA. That's the Backdoor Roth. Doesn't have anything to do with your 401k. That's on its own island over there. But just because they're at the same custodian, there's no kind of crossing of the lines per se. So that is the Backdoor Roth. That is safe. That does check all the boxes. That is a good one there. This is actually a perfect question to follow that up with, which is why I kind of hesitated a few times in there. What is the difference between a backdoor and a conversion? Fantastic question. One of my favorite questions for this topic. Backdoor Roth IRA is the topic of this conversation, right? If you do it appropriately, you're going after tax dollars into your traditional IRA, then converting the funds to the Roth. For all intents and purposes, that is a tax neutral event. When you do that conversion, you're not triggering a tax bill. Maybe you gain some interest, or maybe you invested it, you gained $1,000. But for the most part, that is a tax neutral event. A conversion does pretty much the same steps, but it is fully taxable, right? Let's just say you have a rollover IRA. Let's use that. You have a rollover IRA from an old employer. There's $100,000 in there. Now you want to convert $7,000 from there over to your Roth. On paper, you're thinking, well, I watched this video. That kind of sounds right. Completely different. When that $7,000 goes from your pre-tax dollars in your IRA over to your Roth, that is a taxable event. That is taxable. Now, Roth conversions, one of the most powerful tools out there from the time your income starts to slow. Ideally, you retire, and when Uncle Sam starts forcing you to pull money out, which we call RMDs, required minimum distributions. Roth conversions, very powerful down the line, or certain unique circumstances in a given year. Say you take a sabbatical or your income drops for whatever reason, maybe a Roth conversion kind of sneak in there. But for the most part, that golden window is between retirement and that RMD age, which is currently 75 for the bulk of us. So fantastic question, important to know the difference. A few easy ones here. So for all of our VA employees, right, our government employees, I should say, is the TSP considered protected against a pro-rata rule and not an obstacle for the backdoor Roth? Yes. TSP is pretty much just a 401k, 403b in that same family. So if you have a TSP balance, that is not one that's going to bring in that pro-rata. Let's see here. Is the rollover IRA considered to be among the accounts that shouldn't have a balance? I have a balance in a rollover IRA for my previous employer's 401k, and I also converted $6,500. This is from 2023. Yes, unfortunately, this is one of the sneaky ones, especially with some of the rules out there for 401k plans now where they can default roll it over to an IRA. So you could be doing everything, cranking away, thinking, oh man, I'm crushing this every year. And then all of a sudden you find out by like a random statement that you have $2,000 sitting in an IRA. Again, you can get this cleaned up, but that is one to keep an eye on. So a rollover IRA, anything that has the letters IRA in it, besides the one that says Roth IRA, you should have a yellow flag going up, if not a red flag. Traditional IRA that you're actually doing this conversion in, the actual backdoor Roth, that one is safe. That's, again, another common question. It's always based on the 1231. 1231 deadline is where these balances are reported. So in that example, rollover IRA would be an issue in terms of the pro-rata rule. Okay, next one here. This is a fantastic question. By the time this video goes live, you're almost sneaking into this time of year. Is it advisable to do a backdoor Roth conversion for 23 and 24? I'm planning to make contributions. This individual was doing it for their wife. They have a SEP IRA, so they can't do it. However, I would note to that individual, if you have a SEP IRA, solo 401k plan can be a great alternative to bring the backdoor Roth IRA back to you, and they pretty much do the same thing. Regardless, they're just asking, can I do 2 in 1 year? Yes, we love this. We can always call this the golden window at the start of the year, right? So after January 1, if you haven't done a past year yet I'm recording this video at the end of 24. So let's just say it's January 3rd of 2025 and you haven't done 24 yet. You can still do your 2024 traditional contribution, right? It's all based on the traditional contribution. And then you can also make another one for 2025, right? Because we're in a new year. Now, my note has always been do those as 2 separate checks, right? So 7,000 for 24, 7,000 for 25. Those will go into your traditional IRA, non-deductible. Make sure you're telling your accountant because you're not going to get the proper tax forms at the end of the year because you just did that for 24 in early 25. Another one to remember. So make sure you're telling your accountant that you did do this because you're not going to get proper tax forms to show this in time. But when you do this, again, 7,000 in, 7,000 in, 24, 25, sitting in the IRA, convert that over to the Roth. Once it's in the Roth, get it invested. You've done everything properly, right? So that's the win there. So once we hit the start of the year, really up until you file your next year's taxes, for most of us, all that mid-April, you do have this window where you can get 2 years done at once. So yes, all checks out there. Next one, kind of same rhythm per se. When is the best month to start the backdoor Roth IRA? We like to try to do this every January with our clients. And the whole theory is by doing it at the very start of the year, if the market cooperates, you should get an extra year of tax-free compounding growth. Does it always work out that way? Unfortunately, no, because we know that the stock market also goes down. But in a perfect world, we're just trying to get that extra year in there. So that's why we try to do that in January. However, get it done when you can get it done. If you get it done in a given year, that's a win. Just get it done. Another quick one here. We're coming down to the last two, which is good from a timing perspective. My video editors don't like when we go super long on these. If I have an inherited IRA, does that affect my ability to do a backdoor Roth IRA? Fantastic question. It does not. So you can have an inherited IRA. So I come back on my note from earlier. So there still is a yellow flag for some IRAs. Inherited IRAs, you still are okay in that situation. That will not affect you in terms of the pro-rata rule. Last but not least, but what do you mean to not have a traditional IRA? This is a great question. And this is what I've been trying to emphasize a few on the other ones. If I go to Fidelity and I want to open up a traditional IRA and then put the $7,000 in, it settles in 3 days. If that's not a traditional IRA, what is it called? Fantastic question. It is a traditional IRA. And this is what I mean by that one that you're using to make the conversions. That is not one that would be hurting your pro rata rule. So you put the funds into the traditional IRA. Yes, you have an IRA balance, but remember, you're going to convert that over into your Roth IRA, and then you're good. We're worried about that 12/31 deadline. Now, if you have a few dollars in there and it transfers over, ideally we try to have that cleaned up. So what we always tell for our clients, we do this proactively, but when we're doing different conversations on this topic, like this video, we'll always tell individuals to put a reminder on like December 20th or towards the end of the year to get in there and make sure no other little residuals came in. Because again, it's not going to throw things off, but it's just nice to have a true zero balance at the end of the year and then move that forward. But I'll put all these questions in order in the notes as well, just so that you can jump around if this one applies to you. If it doesn't apply to you, we can have those lists, and I'll just keep them right in there based on how the individuals submitted those questions. So fantastic tool, one of our favorite accounts. I'd argue probably my favorite account, because Roth IRAs in general are my favorite account, but this one for our high income professionals to get that money in there still. So for anyone that said you can't do it, you can. You just got to work this back door. So if you have other questions, drop them below. I'd love to keep creating more content around this topic, but it's a good one. It's a fun one to build around. And thank you for hanging out with me for the last 15 minutes or so. Again, if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. Click on the little bell icon. You'll get a notification every time we release a new video, a good timely video like this one. As always, again, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next video.